Denzel Washington walked onto the set of The View Thursday morning with his usual quiet confidence. Not rushed, not showy, just grounded. He greeted the hosts with handshakes and a warm smile, then settled into his seat with the ease of someone who had nothing to prove. He's an Oscar winner, a director, a producer, a father, a man of faith, and someone we all admire. Please welcome the incredible Denzel Washington, Whoopi Goldberg said, welcoming him with open arms. The audience erupted in applause. Thank you, Whoopi. Always good to be with you, Denzel said, smiling. I think you're the only man who could make this whole table go quiet just by sitting down, Joy Behar quipped. There was laughter around the table. The first segment was light. They talked about Denzel's latest project, a film set during the Reconstruction era, exploring themes of forgiveness, generational trauma, and spiritual resilience. Denzel spoke thoughtfully, weaving in history and personal insight with each answer. It's not just a story about then. It's a mirror. It asks, how do we carry pain? What do we do with anger? And what's the cost of choosing bitterness over healing, he said. Sarah Haynes asked how he prepared for such emotional depth. I pray. I read. I sit in silence. And I listen. Most of the time, the work isn't about pretending. It's about remembering, Denzel replied. The audience applauded softly. The air felt reverent. Sunny Hostin waited until the conversation turned to politics, slowly, naturally, as discussions of race and justice tend to do. Denzel, you've often spoken about faith, values, and discipline, but you don't speak much about party politics. Why is that? She asked. Denzel answered without hesitation. Because politics is noisy. It's loud. But values, those are quiet. You don't shout integrity. You live it. I don't align myself with tribes. I align myself with truth, he said. The answer was met with approval, but Sunny wasn't satisfied. But in today's climate, silence can feel like complicity. Do you worry that avoiding direct political commentary makes it harder for people to know where you stand? She pressed. Denzel looked at her, calm but firm. I'm not avoiding anything. I've marched. I've mentored. I've put kids through school. I've shown up in ways that don't trend on social media. If someone needs me to yell my convictions to believe I have them, they're not listening. They're measuring volume, he said. Sunny nodded slowly. But isn't there power in taking a side publicly? Especially when the issues affect the communities you care about? She asked. Denzel leaned forward slightly. There's power in doing the work. Not just talking about it, he said. That answer should have been enough. But Sunny pushed again. So would you say your silence is intentional? That you've chosen not to comment on, say, police reform, immigration, or voting rights, because you think it's not your place? She asked. Denzel didn't blink. I don't believe in performative outrage. I believe in responsibility. And I'm careful with my words because people listen. That's not silence. That's stewardship, he said. Joy Behar tried to jump in with a joke, but it didn't land. The table was shifting now, not loudly, not dramatically, but there was a crack forming. I'm just saying, when someone with your influence chooses not to speak out in certain moments, people notice. And some might interpret that as protecting your brand, Sunny said. Denzel sat still for a beat. He said nothing. Then he said, quietly but clearly, you're confusing dignity with strategy. Sunny raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? She asked. Denzel looked at her. I mean, I don't raise my voice because I don't have to. And I don't explain myself to people who've already decided what they want to believe, he said. The room quieted. But don't you think questions are fair? Sunny asked. Denzel nodded. Questions are fair. Accusations disguised as questions? That's something else, he said. Sarah Haynes glanced between them, visibly uncomfortable. Whoopi tried to steer the conversation. Okay, let's pivot a bit, she started. But Denzel didn't move. His eyes were still on Sunny. And for the first time in the show's long history, it wasn't the questions that filled the air. It was the weight of a man refusing to be dissected. The burn had started, but not through anger, through stillness, through presence, through a voice that didn't rise, because it didn't need to. The segment resumed after commercial, but the air had not cleared. Whoopi Goldberg's tone was lighter, her attempt to return to neutral footing evident. We're back with the legendary Denzel Washington. We've been having a passionate conversation about values, responsibility, and how we show up for the world, she said, smiling toward the camera. Denzel offered a nod, but didn't smile. He sat with the same composure, hands folded, posture tall, voice still quiet. Joy Behar leaned in, trying to change course. Denzel, you've played so many roles over the years. Kings, killers, fathers, heroes. Do you ever feel like people confuse you with your characters? She asked. All the time. That's part of the job. People meet me and expect a sermon or a speech. I give them a hello, Denzel said. There was a small ripple of laughter. But the mood hadn't lightened. Sonny Hostin didn't let it go. You mentioned stewardship. But when the country is facing attacks on voting rights, book bans, rising extremism, what does stewardship look like to you? If not speaking clearly and publicly, she asked. Denzel turned to her. Stewardship looks like showing up where the cameras aren't. Visiting prisons. Paying tuition. Hiring people who've been locked out. Lending my name to projects that uplift. That's not a tweet. That's a life, he said. Sonny's voice was soft now, but it carried weight. But there are moments when your voice, because of who you are, could move people. And choosing not to use it, to some, feels like abandonment, she said. Denzel didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands, then back up. That's the problem. You don't know where I've used it. You only know where you didn't hear it, he said. Sonny leaned forward. I'm not accusing. I'm asking, she said. No, you're assuming. And I'm not obligated to prove my convictions to anyone on this stage, Denzel said. The silence was sharp now. I think what Sonny's trying to say is, people look to you. Maybe they're hoping to hear confirmation that someone they admire shares their fears. Their hopes, Sarah Haynes said gently. Denzel nodded. I understand that. But admiration doesn't give you ownership. I'm not a symbol. I'm a man. A flawed, growing, committed man. And I didn't come here to be interrogated about my moral worth, he said. I think we've touched a nerve here, maybe a necessary one. But let's not confuse clarity with confrontation, Whoopi said. Denzel looked at Whoopi. I respect the conversation. But I also know the difference between a conversation and a setup, he said. No one here is trying to trap you, Denzel. We love you, Joy said. Love shows up different than this, Denzel said. Sonny spoke again. I apologize if it felt personal. I just believe public figures have a platform. And silence can be loud, she said. Denzel's eyes didn't leave hers. And so can grace, he said. The room was still. The tension was no longer explosive. It was heavy, measured. The weight of two people not yelling, but colliding quietly. We're going to take another break, Whoopi said. As the music played and the camera panned out, Denzel removed his mic. The audience didn't notice at first. The crew did. Denzel stood up, calm. Joy reached out. Wait, are you leaving? She said. He looked at her, then at Whoopi, then at Sonny. I came here to talk about a film. About healing. About where we go from here. But I'm not going to sit at a table where every word I say is held up like evidence in a trial, he said. He turned to leave. Denzel, you don't have to, Whoopi started. But he stopped. He looked back. I've done the work. And if you can't see that, then this isn't my table, he said. Then he walked out. Not fast. Not angry. Just finished. The camera returned from commercial to a table missing its center. Denzel Washington's chair was empty. The host sat unusually still. The audience, though instructed to remain calm, seemed unsure whether to clap, react, or just stay quiet. Whoopi Goldberg, visibly unsettled, looked straight into the lens. Before the break, Denzel Washington left our set. And while that wasn't expected, it's his choice. He said what he needed to say. We respect that, she said. I just want to say, for the record, Denzel is someone we admire deeply. No one at this table was trying to provoke him, Joy Behar added. Sonny Hostin remained quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. If I came across as accusatory, that wasn't my intention. But I believe in hard questions. That's what we do here, she said. Sarah Haynes looked uncomfortable. There's a difference between hard questions and questioning someone's heart. That's a fine line. And I think maybe today, we crossed it, she said. The audience remained hushed. A few scattered claps started, then died. Off camera, producers were scrambling. They had expected a segment on art, faith, and history. Instead, they now had headlines forming in real time. Within hours, clips flooded social media. Not of shouting, not of chaos, but of a man quietly taking off his mic and walking away with grace and finality. The footage hit differently. Some viewers praised Denzel for his poise, for refusing to be drawn into a media spectacle. Others said he overreacted, that questions come with the territory of public life. But the deeper reaction wasn't about sides. It was about tone. He didn't storm out. He didn't shout. He just stood up and said, "This isn't my table." And that's going to stay with people longer than any soundbite, a popular podcast host said. Denzel taught a masterclass in self-respect today, a former co-star tweeted. In an age of outrage, he chose dignity. And that silence? That hit louder than anything else, a commentator added. Sonny released a short statement later that evening. It read, "I respect Denzel Washington immensely. Our conversation took a turn I regret. My goal was dialogue, not confrontation." Denzel didn't post anything. He didn't comment. But during an unrelated red carpet appearance the next week, a reporter asked if he had anything to say about the View moment. He paused, then smiled faintly. "Not everything needs a sequel," he said, and walked on. Back on The View, the moment left a mark. The show didn't avoid tough questions. But after Denzel's exit, there was a shift, a slower pace, a softer touch. Not out of fear, but out of something else. Out of recognition that not everyone comes to perform. Some come to speak. And when they're not heard, not truly heard, they leave. Not with anger, but with purpose. Denzel Washington didn't walk out to prove a point. He walked out because he already had. And in doing so, he reminded millions watching that sometimes, power isn't in what you say. It's in knowing when the conversation has stopped being a conversation. And saying, clearly and calmly, "I'm done with this show."